Nick Chubb spoke to the media, and Nick Chubb, talked about being glad to be back, and just said he was taking it one day at a time in terms of his rehab, and that's to be expected. Adam the Bull in the cast over at UCSS, and Tyvis Powell and Jason Lloyd talked about the idea of when Nick Chubb might be back, and if week 1 is off the table.
I don't get it. I think
they haven't. But the reports are, set it up this way. The reports.
We heard Nick talk about he's not practicing yet. He's ramping up to get to able to practice. Do you think we'll see him in a Browns uniform for week 1? Has that changed after hearing him talk yesterday? Your thoughts on whether or not he'll be available?
I mean, the fact that he's not practicing, I guess my first thought was, well, no, he's not going to be ready for week 1. And then I'm thinking about it again, and I'm saying, well, we're still little over 3 months from the start of the regular season. Nick Chubb does not need to practice. He does not need, correct me if you think I'm wrong, Tyvis, I don't think he needs to practice. I don't think he needs to play in the preseason.
He ain't doing that, no way.
I think in theory, if he's able to practice a little the couple of weeks before the season, then he's good to. If he feels like he's good to go, yeah, I think it's possible he can play week 1.
I think that the thing when you talk about an injury at this standpoint, the number one thing for me is his mindset. They can tell him you're 100% clear, but he still might not be the same. And until he feels that contact, till he gets out there and he practices with the team and be able to do cuts and stuff like that, he'll truly know when he's ready. Yeah. And I think it might take a while. I know how dedicated he is. I know how if anybody can bounce back from this injury, it could be Nick Chubb. But when you just give all of the things that went into that injury, I just think it's going to take a while. And the fact that he's not practicing now, I think he's just starting to run, correct? I think he's just now running.
There's video of him running on track.
Yeah. So, I just think it's going to take a while. And that cutting part of it, what made Nick Chubb is making guys miss, being able to cut, and being able to get vertical right now. I just don't think he's going to be there. And if he's not going to be that person out the gate, or if it's going to take him a while, I think they don't need to rush him back out there.
I think Tyvis took the lead on that conversation, and I think Tyvis is 1,000% correct. And I think I can give a unique perspective on ACL injuries because I've had 2 of them, 1 on each knee. I've also had injuries other than my ACL, my MCL and my PCL as well. I've had meniscus, I've had cartilage damage in both. I've had my knee drained with fluid on my knee over 100 times. I've been through rehab multiple times. So I can give you a unique perspective on what a timetable kind of looks like, but at the same time, not giving you something that is going to be that I'm trying to hold Nick Chubb back or say that he's not going to be able to come back and be better than he was before. I'm just giving you a perspective of somebody who's had an injury. So to give you the perspective of my first injury, and I'm kind of dating myself here, my first injury that I ever had, torn ACL, was a contact cut. I got cut by a running back who was cutting inside, coming back towards the line of scrimmage. That block is illegal. It was a little bit of a gray area, and we were playing NC State back then. We was actually playing against Phillip Rivers in NC State. That was in 2001. That's so long ago. But when I got hit, it was just like that content. It was something like the contact that Nick Chubb had, because it was a helmet to the lower body, right on the side of the knee, caved it, and it kind of buckled underneath me. So I've had that injury when it comes to, basically being, hit in the area and tearing a ligament. And I've also, the second time, less than, I think I came back in 8 months. So I had that happen, and it's so funny. You remember surgeries like they was your children. So I had that surgery on December 13th, 2021. Excuse me, 2021. December 13th, 2001, right? And so I rehabbed it. I had surgery, rehabbed it, and I was ready to go back for 2 days. So I got back, and I started back playing football. It was braced up in August. I go through 2 days. 2 days was like a month or about 6 weeks, right? And we're getting ready to, in our last little scrimmage, getting ready for playing Pitt. Pitt was our first game of the year. I went to make a cut. The running back was moving. He cut the ball back, and I went to plant. And I made a cut and blew my other knee out. So I had 2 ACLs within 8-month period, 2 ACL surgeries within an 8-month period. And the one thing that Tyvis talks about is actually true. It's not the knee that you worry about the most that just got repaired. There's a lot of times where when you're a 2 ACL type person, you end up tearing your other ACL. And so for me, what happened to me was, everything has to be about balance. Everything has to be about symmetry. And as you're a running back, I was a defensive lineman. I'm not sprinting long distances and making big cuts and being explosive inside the box. The most explosion I have is off the line of scrimmage, which is a 1.5 steps. But I even know the apprehensiveness that you have from making strong cuts. I was a basketball player, played basketball in high school, and I always loved playing basketball. But after the ACL surgery, it took me almost 3 years to trust that I can make a cut on a surface that does not give like a basketball court and not tear something. That is the thing that a lot of people, it's the mental part of it. Is, you've been wired so long to put maximum force, maximum effort, being able to cut and put that much torque on your lower body and knees and able to do it without thinking, it's just natural. Now he's going to think. And it's the biggest mind in the world trying to get back over that. It's not necessarily that you're hurt. It's not necessarily your knee's going to blow out. It's not necessarily that you don't have the same ability. The reality of it is teaching you to play 100% ready to go and never thinking about cutting, never thinking about it, just being an athlete. And for every injury that you have, it takes a little bit away. You may get back and maybe 98%. You may come back and you have an injury, and now you can get to 96%. You may have another injury, you'll be at 94%, right? All of those times you have injury, it's not only taking a toll on your body, but it takes a toll on your mental psyche, right? And so for Nick Chubb being a running back and a person who's now gone through this twice, it's also another big burden, because now you're thinking about, okay, wow, like, I could really be hurt. Like, I could really get hurt. Not saying he's scared or anything, but when you're a running back, every single time you touch the ball, either you score or you're going to get hit, right? You touch the ground, somebody hits you every play. And so you got to think about that. And when I look at it from a term of Nick Chubb and what the timetable for me is, what you have to do as a Browns organization is you almost have to think the first part of the season is a red shirt. There was even if he was ready to play week 1, I wouldn't play him. You know why? Because I don't, to me, just from my experience, not putting nothing on him, because I know Adrian Peterson came back and it was tremendous. You want to be mind, body, and soul ready to go. And if you have any doubts in your mind about your health, don't go out there, because you're going to end up getting injured again. They should put him on a red shirt. He should come back week 10. And whatever he gives you from week 10 on is great. You know why? He'll be fresh. He'll be anxious to get back out there, and he'll be mentally prepared. And he's going to be fresher than everybody else, because he hasn't played that far. And then anything you get from Nick Chubb from there, you can use that as your free agent. You can use that as a guy who's going to give you a shot in the arm. And then when you bring him back, you bring him back slowly. You can bring him back and ramp him up to a point where he gets to the playoffs, and now he's in rare form. Now he's in good shape, right? Now he's gotten hit back and forth. But I wouldn't attempt to play him the first 8-9 weeks. I just wouldn't do it, because you're putting him in a position where he already has a lot of pressure on himself. And I want to make sure, not only the biggest thing for me is not the whether he can do it. It's now the maintenance that goes into it. Does he have any swelling in the knee after practices? Does he have to get more treatment? Is it a knee that becomes arthritic? I got one knee that's great. My left one is awesome. The right one is arthritic. It gets puffy. It rains. It's a rain time machine. Every time it rains, this knee get big. It gets swollen. It gets angry. So are you going to have some of that in the knee? Do you have to maintenance it? What about his practice times, right? And what about he was already on a pitch count last year to start with. So all these things you got to think of. For me, I guarantee he's not going to be, I'm about 90% sure he's not going to play week 1, nor should he. I'm thinking of Nick Chubb somewhere way down the line where he can make sure he understands what he's getting into and that he can be fully prepared mentally, physically, and spiritually to go out and give what he can.